As we were gathering for worship this morning, I overheard just a little bit of a conversation between one of our deacons who was greeting at the front door and one of our parishioners. I think they were asking for a moment of levity, some good news, some humor in the midst of the morning message. At least that was how I interpreted the brief portion of the conversation which I heard. These particular texts don't give us a lot of humor to work with, for they seem to be almost unrelenting bad news. It's hard to find in tough times the kind of good news in the midst of bad days. And clearly for the writer, for the psalmist who composed that psalm of lament, that psalm of agony and distress, calling on God, where are you? Things are falling apart all around us. All of the hopes and dreams and promises that relied upon seem to have evaporated in fire and in warfare and in devastation. And we look around and we do not see you. And there is that recurring refrain, restore us, O God, let your face shine, that we may be saved. It is an echo of that blessing which we bestowed upon Vanessa and Cheyenne this morning, that blessing that is rich in the Hebrew scripture and the heritage of the church. May God bless you and keep you. May God's face shine upon you and be gracious to you. May God look upon you with kindness and give you peace. For the people of the time in which this Psalm 80 was first constructed and composed, it seems as if God's face is far away and not shining at all. And yet, deep within the anxiety and distress that echoes in its words and concerns is a basic and foundational hope that is centered not on things that can be seen, not on the circumstances of the day, but a hope that is anchored in God's faithfulness to God's people over time. That God has been a shepherd who has cared for them. God has been a vine keeper who has taken the shoot of God's people and planted it and tended it. And now the circumstances of life have overwhelmed it. And they ask only that God might be present with them. God might listen and hear and respond. But it is a lament, a prayer anchored in faith. It is a prayer that understands that life happens and that the kind of hope and good news that really matters is not just a surface veneer, but a hope born out of the reality in which lives, real human lives, our lives, the lives of God's people, are lived. And it is that hope and good news that also flows out in the New Testament letter to the Hebrews, out of the experience and message of Jesus Christ. For the letter to the Hebrews was also written at a time of great distress, when early Christians were being persecuted by Roman authorities, where Christians, because of faith, were being turned over to be cast to lions or to be forced to fight gladiators for the delight and sport of those who watched from the stands. It was a tough time to keep one's faith whole and real. Sometimes it's easier when you don't know what's happening around you. There is a grace in going on vacation to a place that doesn't have either satellite or cable TV. I am a news junkie. I channel surf from station to station to hear what's happening in the world and what various people are saying about it. And to be perfectly honest, this summer the news hasn't always been good. We live in challenging, tough times. We face the environmental disaster of an oil spill that is greater than anything ever experienced before in the Gulf of Mexico. And economic and political times are pretty tough as well. Too many people are without work or fearful of losing their employment, and far too many families are struggling to pay mortgages or to deal with foreclosures or to just kind of keep things together. There isn't a lot of good news sometimes, and we yearn for it. But one of the advantages, as I said, of being where you can't get regular TV, it's not that I don't have electricity at my little place in Maine, but we have a television with rabbit ears. And if you position the rabbit ears just right, you can get the local ABC station, the public broadcasting station, and Fox, the Fox station. If you move them in a little different orientation, you can get the NBC station, but not the ABC station. Sometimes you can get a CBS. You can always get public television. And so you're not as in touch with what's happening in the world or what people think about it. And so for a brief respite, a week and a half or so, I could focus on being with family, enjoying a nice round of golf, getting a little work done, shingling the side wall that remains to be completed, and not worrying quite so much. But I knew that when I returned, it wasn't as if the news was going to be that much better.